We're going to start this open microphone session a little early, which means we might end early. I'm told that the sun will be up for most of the day, so you might get in some beach time. Let's see if we can wrap this up. I'm starting the ARIN open microphone session. Anyone would like to approach on any questions, comments, concerns, issues they might have, something that has not been raised, something they'd like to revisit? Go ahead, Owen. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. I was complimenting you.
Thank you.
Kevin.
Kevin Bloomberg. Just one quick question. In the RPMs, we have Section 11, which allows for research assignments and allocations. One of the things that allows for is IPv4 assignments. With no free pool, how is ARIN able to do that?
Oh, that's an excellent question. So at present, we probably could not satisfy one of those requests until the next IANA dribble down to us comes. As you remember, the remainder space that it was in many of the RIRs was all given to the IANA to divide up and allocate evenly. We are getting allocations every 6 months. The last one we got was approximately a /18, I'm going to say, Richard. What's the last thing we got, 17 or an 18? It satisfied about 6 requests on the waiting list. We'll get another one. If I remember, the dates are March and September. So in September, we'll get another little dribble of IPv4 remnant addresses. And if we had a research request, we would need to handle it at that time. We couldn't until we had the address space. Yes? Bill?
Perhaps it's time for a policy change that says that we're no longer in the business of servicing research requests because, at least in V4 space, because it's not practical to do so anymore.
Well, and there's also a question of how much V4 research should we be doing? If you know a member of the ARIN Advisory Council, you could suggest them something like that. Oh, wait, I see one.
Well, the bigger part to this is, have we had any research requests in the grand scheme of things in the last 24 months?
In the last 24 months, we have had 1 or 2. I think we have 1 outstanding right now. We also renew, when people come in with a proposal, they can come in and ask for an extension. So there are a small number, and as you can find on the website, they are worthwhile. But it's a very, very small number. Richard, do you know offhand? 4. We have 4 that we granted over time. So I'm not sure if it's still valuable to have these. It's probably a great topic for the AC to consider.
Thank you.
Oh, no. Okay. Microphones remain open. Any other questions or topics? Anyone like to raise anything? New face. Your name?
Jason Chiller, Google, ASOAC. I wanted to come back to the topic of diversity.
Yes.
I noted that the board made recommendations about diversity needs with respect to candidates for the ARIN AC. But diversity on the ASOAC is also important, and it is important to ICANN as well, because the ASOAC appoints seats 9 and 10 to the ICANN board, which also has diversity requirements. That being said, it would be interesting to have the NOMCOM publish what sorts of diversity requirements they have, what they're looking for in terms of diversity with respect to ASOAC candidates. And that's slightly complicated because we have to not just consider the 3 ARIN members, but all 15 of us, which has geographical diversity, cultural diversity, and we do also have some women on the ASOAC as well. So I just wanted to point that out.
Let me just quickly, there is, for those that don't know, the NOMCOM charter, like all board charters, on the website. And there is, I was just checking, there is some evaluation criteria that NOMCOM has used, including a paragraph from the board guidance. And as I was saying earlier, we'd love any feedback on it if that could be improved. I don't know if you want to go on the higher point.
Yeah, I just wanted to also,
the ASOAC, maybe you want to.
well, I also wanted to point out that this is a matter for Board Governance Committee to be concerned about. We've had some discussions recently on this topic. That's the chairman of the Board Governance Committee over here. So if you have some ideas about how to express these things, that would be helpful. But the second thing that's really tough is figuring out when you have achieved the objective And no matter what I've ever tried to do in this space, I've only succeeded in saying that over a period of time, I've managed to get a collection of people of diversity into seats of responsibility. But usually within any one sitting organization, I haven't succeeded in getting all the diversity, I won't call them requirements, but desirable diversity properties satisfied in one sitting. And that's usually hard because of the limited size of each of these groups.
And the ASOAC, it's a good point. It hasn't been on our radar and probably should have. It does have the complications you quite well pointed out, but we definitely have to get that on our radar. So,
If I could add something just to make it a little clearer. So presently, the NOMCOM handles the board and the advisory council, and the board has provided guidance to the NOMCOM to consider opportunities for diversity in building the slates for the board and the advisory council. Furthermore, the board received the as folks may have noticed, we proposed to change the bylaws, had a consultation, there was some discussion. A write-up, a summary of the comments in that consultation, because one of the items in that consultation regarded the possibility of appointing someone to the board to improve diversity. Those comments were also with regard to diversity of the board. Those have been provided to the board, and the Board Governance Committee is actually mulling over how to improve board diversity. So we have a standing guidance to the NOMCOM for the AC and the board. We have the board working on even additional mechanisms for the board. And you mentioned the ASOAC, which actually isn't covered by the NOMCOM. It is a process the board sets for how the election process in this region is done. We would welcome suggestions on how to improve that process to improve the diversity, and in particular, consider the ICANN overall board diversity issue that needs to be done. It is it's a complicated issue, and if there's a better way that we can choose the folks from this region, then we definitely want to hear it, because we haven't looked at that process, I believe, since it's been set up.
Thank you.
Okay, Kathy.
Hi, Kathy Aronson again. It's becoming way too regular a thing that I'm at the microphone. The other thing that concerns me about the election process is that it's almost impossible for someone to get elected who hasn't been to an ARIN meeting. And I think the fellowship program is helping with that, especially in this region. But there are certain times where you need somebody from the board that has experience that you might not ever get from a community member of this region. And the appointment process might help that. But it also might help to have a clearer set of those kind of diversity requirements that the board needs as well. I think we do a really good job on the AC, although having someone from the Caribbean on the AC would be super cool. But we do have a wide range of experiences and different kinds of providers and that sort of thing on the AC. But there's requirements that you need in addition to, you know, the regular kinds of diversity issues, and I don't think that that's easily addressed either.
Understood.
Well, like I said, I think that's why we've been trying every year to update and give that guidance of, the board, as it charters the NOMCOM, has a look and sees where there are skills or other side gaps. I'm not saying that's enough. I'm just saying that's where we've started, and we do now have the appointment process, so we're hoping to try that if necessary.
I also think, though, that needs to be really communicated to the community during the election process, not just that it's up on the website and maybe you can find it.
In the middle of a long page.
But also, these are the things we're looking for, take it or leave it as the community, because they can do whatever they want when they vote. But still, we need to be better communicators of that as well.
I think it'll be great feedback.
On that topic, really quickly, since we've had this appointment possibility for quite a while, but it was very constrained previously. We, as a board, I think I speak for all of us when I say we feel like we're relatively close to either using that or restructuring in such a way that we wouldn't need to because we would get diversity some other way. But using that seems like the surest way to actually get the diversity in one step, right? So I'd be really interested to hear from the people in the room whether in general people would be happy or in general they would be taken aback if in the course of, say, this year, the board added one more person to the board not through the election process, but somebody we went and picked.
Cap, respond?
Yeah, so there are, how many of you on the board? 7?
Yep.
And you're all similar. So if you were to appoint one more person who was asimilar, I do not think that that would meet your goal. Just my opinion. Thanks.
That's
Thank-
the whole point. The question is, do people in the room basically feel like it would be a good thing for us to appoint somebody, right? Again, the whole idea of this is to get the person that we need to begin a start down the more diverse path, but not through the election process, through the appointment process.
Okay, so, okay, let's have, the microphones are open, let's have people comment on that.
The
Let's take-
microphones have filled up.
Right, let's take from the rear microphone, go ahead.
All right, Gary Campbell, Government of Jamaica. This question is about the IANA transition. To what extent was ARIN involved in the discussions of the cross-community working group? And are there any far-reaching implications for the IANA transition once completed for ARIN?
So, ARIN was, as the group of 5 RIRs appointed a group of liaisons from the community to sit through the cross-community working group discussions. I guess sit through doesn't phrase it well. To enjoy the fullness of the cross-community working group discussions. And they did a remarkable job of maintaining hundreds of hours of meetings. I actually also participated, though not a formal liaison. The cross-community working group focused on predominantly ICANN accountability measures. And I'll note that our reliance in the numbers community is going to be based on contractual measures, an SLA, a service level agreement, which is now posted on the NRO website, a service level agreement between the numbers community and ICANN. So the main goal in looking at the cross-community working group activities was to ensure that the resulting powers that changed ICANN didn't in some way endanger how we work with them. And the proposal from the CCWG did not pose any threat, and as you noted, the ARIN board reviewed it, all of the RIRs reviewed it, and we decided that it was safe to proceed. But the fact that the proposal doesn't pose any problem does not mean the implementation doesn't, because the proposal calls for numerous changes. So there's actually a bylaws drafting team, which is drafting the bylaws to implement the CCWG proposal, which I've volunteered for because I like being on long calls. And I'm also saying at this time we don't see any risk in the proposed bylaws. Those proposed bylaws implementing the CCWG proposal should be posted in the next week, if I understand the timeline. Helpful? There you go. Front and center microphone.
Andrew Dole, I support the idea of the board using the appointment powers to add additional diversity to the board. It may not help all the way, but I think it's a good first step in indicating that it's important to the board and the organization that additional people be brought in to nurture them to a place where they could be readily elected by the membership as a whole.
Thank you. Rear microphone.
Gucker, VMware. I am a huge supporter of diversity, but with that said, diversity for the sake of diversity isn't a prudent use of it. If someone has specific qualities that will aid the board, I am fully supportive of that. There are multiple flavors of diversity, whether from a professional background, or sex, or race, or various different degrees, but there has to be a merit to the individual's actual use on the board. Otherwise, it's a useless effort.
Okay, thank you. Comments from the board? Finn.
Just one observation. On that point, there's a term called tokenism, and you are quite right about that. And so I personally would be very concerned that we find people who are qualified to serve on the board and serve ARIN and you as needed.
Okay, front microphone.
John Springer, ARIN AC, do it quick. Don't wait till the end of the year after the next election. With regard to tokenism, I feel very confident. I'm totally nearly sure that you'll be able to find qualified women candidates, Caribbean candidates, any kind of category you want to devise. There will be qualified people in that category that are ready, willing, and able to participate in this process.
Okay, Thank you. Vin, you want to respond?
Just going to say, if you had some names that you would like to share with us, that would be much appreciated.
Okay, rear microphone?
Kevin Bloomberg, Dwyer, NAC. So there's two aspects to diversity that are important for me. ARIN is an organization with how many member countries or regions?
More than 25 economies are involved.
With three major regions.
3 major sectors.
I don't see that as regional diversity as a requirement. I see that as regional representation as a requirement. And I sort of separate the diversity aspects with the representation of the members of the regions. That's the first aspect. And the second is, having been on the NOMCOM and without giving away any of the secret sauce of the NOMCOM, having very specific guidelines in terms of what the community needs from the people, as well as waiting, allowing for waiting. Because just saying, these are the 4 things that we're looking for, and not weighting the importance of those 4 things can be very difficult. The second thing is, the NOMCOM can give out the most diverse group of people, but if the community does not understand the relevance and the importance of doing it, and the bulk of the voting is coming from one region, that level of work goes to none.
Kevin, may I ask a question?
Yes.
And it's regarding the board guidance to the NOMCOM that we give in the charge to the NOMCOM. It's in paneling. That paragraph has said the board recognizes need for diversity in certain areas. You asked for more specific and/or weighting. I guess I was never, I had some trepidation about the board stating, for needs of diversity, we would like to have candidates of this qualification in the ballot, because I didn't, do you believe that the community would judge it as unfair for the board to specify what the election ballot should contain?
I'm saying that the NOMCOM not having tangible requirements, not just a list of requirements, but tangible, as in Group A, B, and C. You need to fit in to 3 points of Group A, 5 points of Group B, and don't matter about Group C. But weighting even groupings of things, and it doesn't need to just be diversity, it could be technical. You need to have 3 technical diversity in this, and that is part of a weight. Whatever it may be, but helping with that, because having an amorphous number or amorphous information is not going to help, I think, the NOMCOM be able to make a decision.
Very helpful, thank you.
And Kevin, on the matter of appointments, should we exercise the appointment this year or not?
Absolutely. Start with something and use that as a way of moving forward.
Thank you. Front center mic.
Jason Schiller, Google, ASOAC. Absolutely move forward with an appointment, especially if you're considering a candidate who is Caribbean. I think that having all regions represented is of utmost importance. Also, a woman on the board would be a great thing. And channeling Marla Azinger from Frontier, who's messaging me, she says Bernadette, who is both a woman and Caribbean.
Thank you. Rear microphone. Yes. Yes, that would be you. Thank you.
Margaret Leon, Barbados ICT Professionals Association. I must first say a sincere gratitude for the opportunity to be here to participate in this ARIN conference. And secondly, as a Caribbean female, tokenism to me is a misnomer, because we see ourselves as competent enough to adequately indicate and contribute to the ARIN environment. Since we are part of it, we have so far been silent, but we are silent participants, and we at this time are proposing to be more active in the whole process going forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Front and center. Oh, sorry, Vin, yes.
I used that word, so I wanted to at least explain that I did not mean to suggest to anyone that any person put into this position by appointment, for example, was merely token. What I was saying is that we don't want anyone to be treated that way or to be assumed to be a token representative. I think and believe, as you do, that there are fully qualified people that we could appoint, and I take it from all of the input so far that we should move post haste to do that.
Excellent. Front and center?
Owen DeLong, Akamai ARIN AC. I would like to propose an alternative process that I think could address the regional diversity problem without a lot of upheaval and yet would still allow it to be conducted through an electoral rather than appointment process. We currently have 6 elected board members and a 7th who is determined by being the CEO of the organization. It turns out that we currently have an even mix of elected board members between the US and Canada, 3 each. Why not add 3 more positions to the board and designate that each year there is 1 elected board member from each of the subregions and move forward that way?
Understood. I guess not to share the board secrets, but we've had discussions of sector-based board seats that would be the equivalent, Canada, US, and Caribbean, and whether or not we have a certain number allocated. You get into questions of who can elect such people? Is it widespread election? And is it based on the qualifications? What does it take to be considered a representative of a region? Is it nationality? Is it work location? Is it residence? The board is looking at that in addition to the appointment process to solve these problems.
Sorry, the Board Governance Committee.
The Board Governance Committee. Thank you,
As
Vin.
Owen knows, that's the mechanism that's used in AFRINIC, and there are many things that AFRINIC is not always happy about in itself. There are many things that AFRINIC looks to improve, but that thing has always served AFRINIC very, very well. So that is one of the things that we are seriously considering, and there are a lot of details to be worked through in implementing something like that. So we are presently trying to put together a set of concrete proposals for comparison.
Real microphone.
Hello, Marianne Carter, the Canadian Chamber of Commerce, first-time ARIN attendee and a fellow. I'd like to convey my thanks to ARIN for giving me this opportunity. And while I don't have a significant number of experience with ARIN, I do have a lot of experience working with boards in terms of diversity. So I just wanted to make a couple of points and recommendation. It's discouraging when we talk about diversity that merit always comes up. We never talk about merit when we don't talk about diversity, just a point to keep in mind. I don't think appointing 1 person to the board is going to help this issue long-term. It may in the short term, and I can't help but think that does tokenize the process. My recommendation is, and I don't fully grasping the whole business model of ARIN, but developing a working group would probably be very useful. It could be between the board and the advisory council. You could, people could pool names or think of people that could work on this group to help suggest names to the board who could run or be selected in the future. But there is a number, I don't think you need to reinvent the wheel. There's a lot of work that's already been done on this. And one final cheeky point I want to make, when there are more women on boards, they're more profitable. So just something to keep in mind.
Thank you very much. Okay? Front and center.
Yeah, this is Milton Mueller, Georgia Tech. Owen surprisingly kind of stole my thunder because it seemed to me that this problem of regional representation is actually not that difficult to solve. The ICANN board has regional representation slots. Many different boards of representative organizations have to do that. So I would encourage you to explore options. I can understand how in Africa, with an extremely nationally diverse situation, that might be a little more complicated than it is here, but I can't see any problem with having regional slots on the ARIN board. The gender diversity is a bit more complicated, and I am personally quite uncomfortable with the board members selecting somebody out of the blue. If you're going to do that, ask the community to provide you with lists of people that they like.
Mhm.
And I would also, I agree with what the person from Canada just said about, you know, this one appointment is really not much of a big deal. It's kind of a short-term thing, so you really need to develop processes for dealing with it more systematically. Thank you.
Okay.
Short term is how we have been thinking about that. I think we've all been thinking of this as something that we would do once as part of a jump-starting process on the way to a structural fix.
Right.
So the question is more whether you want us to do this once on the way to a structural fix, or wait and get the structural fix in place and see whether that works.
Okay, rear microphone.
Hello, good morning. Dildre Barrow, the Barbados government. I'm a fellow, and I must say thank you for the opportunity to attend. It's been a very interesting process watching you all operate for the last 3 days. I have a suggestion, which is why don't ARIN ask for internships towards the AC? Let there be some spare positions where people can come and observe what is going on, the process. It's not easy. I've been here for 3 days. There are things I understand, things I don't. You have the interest, but as a Caribbean person, and I'm just saying this from the Caribbean experience, a lot of things are very expensive for us. So probably if you're able to, even if attend remotely and experience that, then you get the opportunity to see what's really going on. Persons within ARIN can see if there's really an interest from the Caribbean, because I totally agree, tokenism. I'm a woman. I don't want you to put me on a board just because I'm female or black or whatever other reason somebody else comes up with. It has to be the person wanting to be there, that interest from them. So maybe that's something that you can look at. It doesn't need to be 10 internships, but just enough that it'll cover all the regions if there is some interest from the particular area.
Thank you for that. Excellent suggestion. Okay, we're going to be closing the microphones soon. If you have any comments, anyone who wants to have any questions, anything from our hosts or sponsors, please approach the mics front and center.
Scott Libran, speaking only for myself. I want to express an unpopular opinion in response to something that was said earlier, but first I need to recognize that ARIN has done a really good job, in my opinion, of outreach to the Caribbean in a number of ways. The fact that we're having this meeting here is one aspect of that. The fact that there are so many folks from the Caribbean who've been brought here and who are brought to other meetings is also good. I do like the idea of proceeding with an appointment. I would be fine with having perhaps one board seat appointed, not appointed, one board seat open for election only to members of a particular sector, but I really want to caution against using some sort of equal proportionality of saying 3 US, 3 Canada, 3 Caribbean as somehow being the fairest way to divvy up seats. And the reason I say that is you have to look at population. There is a really large difference in population between those 3 countries. And so I would caution the board to make sure that our outreach is proportional and make sure that we have representation. But I would caution against trying to go for equality between vastly differing sized economies.
Understood. No board comments. Next in queue.
If anybody wants to say any more about that issue, why don't you do so, because I would like to bring up a different topic.
Jason Schiller, Google, ASOAC. I would also support the notion of having fixed regional seats. If it was limited, for example, if there were 3 seats, 1 fixed for the US, 1 for Canada, 1 for the Caribbean, and then 3 or more free seats that are elected as we currently do, I think that would be fine.
Okay. And Ron, do you want to respond to the same topic? Go ahead.
Yeah, those are all great ideas, and I think another piece to look at, not just representation based on economies, but also might be just ARIN membership in the first place. How many, how many official memberships exist in each of those geographic areas, and maybe portion it based on that.
Excellent. I'm going to close off the queues with respect to the question of board composition and election. Anyone who wants to speak to that? Okay, Alan, in back.
Hello, Alan Barrett from AFRINIC. Just for information, I'm not advocating that you follow this model, but some more about what AFRINIC does. We have divided Africa into 6 regions, and if you go to the afrinic.net webpage and hover your mouse over About Us and then click on Service Region, you'll see a pretty colored map showing which countries are in which of those 6 regions. Each of those 6 regions has 1 elected board member, and we also have 2 elected board members who can come from anywhere in Africa. They're not restricted to particular regions. And our election schedule specifies that every year, certain board members from particular regions are replaced. Thanks.
Got it. Thank you. Okay, we're going to close off that topic. New topic, Mr. Woodcock.
So with my PCH member hat on rather than my ARIN board hat on, I want to bring something up, which is that we're getting to a point where I think many or most of us believe that in the future, longer prefixes, smaller IPv4 blocks will be used, smaller than /24. I think there are 2 main things driving that. One is that there are people who will need 6-4 NAT in the future, new market entrants, for instance, who don't exist today. New companies will be created that will need some access to legacy v4 resources on the internet, and without a few v4 addresses for the outside of their 64 NAT, there's no way for them to do that. The other driving factor is the one that motivates me as somebody who operates the CDN. I think there are a lot of us who are doing CDN style or cloud style services who have a fair amount of address space which we cannot utilize efficiently because there is one service per announced block. And this is an unfortunate intersection of routing policy and IP address allocation policy. So we have many potential customers coming to us saying, can you advertise our CCTLD, for instance? And we say, well, we have like 5 blocks left. We have to sort of pick and choose at this point. If you bring your own v4 space, we can advertise that. But if you want us to use one of our last few blocks, we have to think pretty carefully about it. But if we could advertise /25s instead of /24s and expect that those would be globally routed, we would be able to serve twice as many customers without asking for any more IPv4 space. If we could advertise /32s and have those be accepted, then we'd be able to serve 256 times as many as we do right now, again, with no additional allocation. Or we could serve 128 times as much and put half of it out there on the market for other people who might need it. So those 2 driving factors lead me to think that this is kind of inevitable at some point, no matter how much it may be distasteful to some people to accept more routes. If it is the case that it's inevitable, then the issue is just when, right? And as long as we sort of are deadlocked in an argument about is it evil and, will it happen sometime, we can't ever move forward, right? We can't get to something that we can all agree to. It is the case that ARIN does not deal in routing policy, and ARIN does not dictate routing policy to its members or anybody else. However, there are other things that ARIN does not dictate and are not a matter of policy, like, for instance, government's interest in the WHOIS. that get discussed in informal ARIN working groups that do not result in ARIN policy, but because we are here together and the right people are in the right room at the right time, you know, it's easy to get people together over lunch or dinner or whatever to organize efforts. So a few of us have been talking over the last couple of days about getting a working group on acceptance of longer prefix in the routing table underway. The idea being that we get the large network operators to collaborate in defining a timeline on which longer prefixes would be accepted and then implement that. Completely outside of ARIN policy, but obviously this has to interact a little bit with the capabilities of ARIN's backend systems and so forth. So some of us are trying to organize that. If any of you are interested in participating, please let me know and we'll get a mailing list going and so forth.
Excellent. Thank you, Bill. Okay, front mic.
Trevor Forrest, fellow first-timer. I just wanted to, and I also live here in Jamaica. I wanted to, first of all, thank ARIN for giving me the opportunity to be here. I'd like to thank the ARIN team, my mentor, Owen DeLong. I'd also like to commend you, John, on your handling of the proceedings.
Thank you.
And I look forward to more participation. As I've told some of the colleagues here, you know, it's been a while since I've been able to attend something like this and get back into the weeds of things. And you know, it's not every day you get a chance to, you know, have FaceTime with somebody like Vint. So I was very happy about that. But I just want to say thank you and congratulations to the team for putting something like this together. I think it was a real success. Hope to see you guys back here soon.
Yes.
And when I say here, I mean Jamaica.
Thank you. Very good.
All right, so I think you all deserve a round of applause for the work that you've done. Thank you.
Thank you. Speaking of managing this, we are beyond time, so I'm closing the queues. Kevin, what do you got?
Quickly, Kevin Bloomberg, in regards to Bill W. And I just think that...
Actually, refer to Bill W. That's not a topic here. Thank you.
What?
Talk to Bill W. He asked for people to speak to him.
This is actually a question for ARIN.
Okay.
One of the questions that came up, I'm saying Bill reminded me, thank you, was in regards to ARIN allowing for parties to deaggregate their space moving forward, and is that something that is allowed by staff in terms of if I have a 22, can I ask ARIN to now turn it into 4 24s?
At present, ARIN's systems are predicated on 24 blocks as the lowest size. So yes, down to a 24. We, in preparation for unforeseeable realities, will be removing those limits and working on that as one of the tasks this year.
But what I'm asking is, does ARIN allow an organization who has a 22 to request it be deaggregated for whatever reason they may have?
The deaggregate makes me think of routing, but if you're saying take a block and split it into 2 blocks, I believe the answer is yes. By definition, you could form Kevin Bloomberg 2, a small LLC, and split yourself in half, and we would end up splitting the block.
Within the same org?
I believe we've allowed people to split blocks. Let me look to see if we've done it. I don't know a policy reason why we would not. Our general inclination is to accommodate what we can, if not prohibited by policy.
Thank you.
Thank you. Center front microphone.
Thank you very much, John. Fellow committee members, thank you. I was here on the first day, welcome you all. And I'm going to take the opportunity as part of the comments to do some closing remarks on behalf of Jamaica. So for many of you, it's been an exciting 3 or 4 days, you know, and discussing issues and policies of relevance to the ARIN community. ARIN 37 has certainly been an eye-opener for me in particular, And I commend the board and the leadership of ARIN for its stewardship, along with the community members for their cooperation and their inputs in making this event a success. On behalf of the government of Jamaica and the people of Jamaica, we are certainly happy that Jamaica could serve as a host and a backdrop for this event. As Jamaican and as members of the Caribbean, we have been invigorated by this event and look forward to increasing our participation as a country and as a people in framing and creating the future for the internet. In this regard, and in keeping with some discussions I heard earlier, it so happens that I'm also proud to announce that someone who works in the Caribbean, who is from the Caribbean, Dr. Patrick Anglin, has actually offered to run for a seat on the ARIN Advisory Council.
Very good.
Patrick works in the office of the Chief Information Technology Office at the University of the West Indies and is not a stranger to the internet community as he also participates in ICANN. Patrick, please take a stand and be recognized, please.
Hello, Patrick.
We hope that he will get the support of the community, and please feel free to make yourselves known to him. Finally, I thank Cable and Wireless Business. Fazio, I don't know if he's still here. And the team.
Yep.
Also, Google for working with ARIN to make this event possible. We thank you for your inputs and ensuring that ARIN 37 was here in Jamaica. We thank the staff and the management of the Half Moon Hotel for making its accommodations and its facilities available to you all and to us all for us to enjoy. As we depart this meeting, please go out and enjoy our beautiful country, our warm weather, our sunshine, our white sandy beaches, our trees, the taste and flavor of Jamaica, our food and our people. We urge you to return here for business, for vacation, or as an ARIN community for future meetings. Come back to Jamaica, it's no problem.
Thank you. One final open mic. Go ahead, yes.
Claire Craig, University of the West Indies, St. Augustine campus. I'd like to echo the sentiment of Mr. Forrest. This has, as a first-timer, this has been a really enlightening week for me in a number of ways. First of, I really do appreciate the way to see how this meeting was run, and it helped me to even put that into perspective for our Caribnog meetings. So with my other hat now as Caribnog, I also would like to take this opportunity to thank ARIN and its membership and the board for the support that it has given to Caribnog for us to be able to host our Caribnog 11, which follows this meeting for the next 2.5 days. And we do hope that we will see some of you at our meeting. So thank you very much again. And I do appreciate being here for these last 2 days.
Excellent. Thank you. And with that, I will close the open mic session.